Captain James Miller stood at the command center of the Thunderchild, his hands gripping the steel railing until his knuckles turned white. Through the massive view screen, he watched as hundreds of alien warships materialized at the edge of the solar system, their metal hulls gleaming under the distant sunlight. "Sir, we're picking up more ships," said Tom, his sensor officer. The young man's voice trembled slightly. They're still coming through whatever portal they're using." Miller nodded slowly, his jaw clenched tight. The Thunderchild, Earth's most advanced experimental warship, hung in space near Jupiter's orbit. They had been conducting their usual stealth systems test when the first alien ships appeared. "How many?" Miller asked, knowing he wouldn't like the answer. "Over 500 now, sir. And these are just the big ones. Each capital ship seems to be launching smaller vessels. Our computers can't keep up with the count anymore." The bridge fell silent. Earth had only managed to build 30 proper warships in the last decade, and most of them were little more than armed transport vessels. The Thunderchild was different, a prototype vessel using experimental dark matter technology, but it was just one ship. "Captain," called out Lisa from the communication station, "we're receiving a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, aimed at Earth and all our colonies in the system." Miller straightened his uniform. "Put it on screen." The view screen flickered, and an alien appeared. It looked almost human, except for its gray skin and completely black eyes. It wore what appeared to be a military uniform, decorated with symbols Miller didn't recognize. "People of Earth," the alien spoke in perfect English, its voice deep and commanding. "I am High Commander Reed of the Galactic Empire. Your planet has been chosen for integration into our civilization. Your technology is primitive, your defenses inadequate, and your military capabilities laughable. Surrender now, and we will ensure a peaceful transition. Resist, and we will demonstrate why no species has successfully opposed the Empire in over 3 centuries." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Sir," Tom called out again, his eyes fixed on his screens, "their ships are moving. 3 of their smaller vessels are heading toward our defense platforms in Mars orbit. They'll reach them in about 20 minutes. Miller walked to the center of the bridge, his mind racing. The Thunderchild was different from every other ship Earth had built. Its dark matter engine wasn't just for propulsion. It bent space in ways their scientists still didn't fully understand. During their tests, they had discovered that the ship became virtually invisible to their own advanced sensors when the engine was running at full power. "Get me Earth Command," Miller ordered, a plan forming in his mind. "Sir," Lisa replied, "Earth Command is in chaos. They're receiving thousands of transmissions from all military bases and civilian centers. The emergency channels are completely jammed." Miller made his decision. "Sound battle stations. Power up the dark matter drive to full capacity." Warning klaxons blared throughout the ship as crew members rushed to their combat positions. The unique engine hummed to life, its deep vibrations resonating through the hull. "Sir," his first officer, Mark, questioned, "what are we doing?" Miller looked at his crew, seeing the fear in their eyes, but also their determination. "We're going to watch. We're going to observe how these Imperial ships operate, find their weaknesses. They think Earth's defenses are a joke. Well, they haven't met us yet. And thanks to our engine, they won't. Not until we want them to." The Thunderchild's lights dimmed as more power was diverted to the dark matter drive. On the view screen, the Imperial ships moved with frightening precision, their formation perfect as they approached Mars. "Now," Miller said quietly, "let's see what we're really up against." The first battle for Earth was about to begin, and humanity's best hope was a ship that technically didn't exist, watching from the shadows. The Thunderchild drifted silently as the crew watched the Imperial ships tear through Mars' orbital defenses. Earth's automated platforms, considered cutting-edge just days ago, exploded like fireworks against the Empire's shields. "Record everything," Captain Miller ordered, his voice steady despite the destruction they were witnessing. Every weapon they use, every shield flicker, every engine signature. Tom worked his sensor station frantically. Sir, something strange is happening. Our dark matter drive. It's affecting their scans. Look at this. Miller moved to the sensor station. On the screen, he could see Imperial scan beams passing right through their location. The Thunderchild was invisible not just to regular sensors, but to all Imperial detection methods. Run a full analysis, Miller commanded. I want to know exactly why they can't see us. Lisa spoke up from communications. Captain, I'm intercepting their transmissions. Their language is complex, but our computers are translating. They're laughing about our defenses, calling them primitive toys. Miller's expression hardened. Keep listening. Their overconfidence might be useful. Hours passed as they observed the Imperial fleet. The Empire had positioned their ships throughout the solar system, creating a complex network of patrols and checkpoints. They were methodical, professional, and absolutely certain of their victory. Sir, Mark said, studying a tactical display, I think I understand their strategy. They're not just trying to intimidate us. They're setting up for a long-term occupation. These patrol routes, the positioning of their capital ships, they're creating a permanent control grid. Miller nodded, but they made one critical mistake. They assumed they knew everything about Earth's capabilities. Tom, what have you found about our invisibility? Tom looked up from his station, excitement in his eyes. It's amazing, sir. The dark matter drive doesn't just hide us. It exists in a spectrum of energy they've never encountered. Their entire technology base seems built around regular matter and energy. Dark matter is completely outside their experience. Can we use this? Miller asked. Even better, Tom replied. I've been analyzing their shield frequencies. They're incredibly advanced, but they're all tuned to defend against normal matter and energy weapons. A dark matter-based weapon would pass right through them. The bridge crew fell silent as they processed this information. Their experimental ship, considered a prototype with uncertain value, might be the key to fighting back. Sir, Lisa called out suddenly. Urgent transmission from Earth Command. They'd finally cleared the emergency channels. They're discussing surrender terms. Miller straightened in his chair. Open a secure channel to Admiral Rogers. Use the dark matter frequency we discovered. The Empire won't be able to intercept it. Minutes later, Admiral Rogers' worried face appeared on a small screen. Captain Miller, where have you been? We thought we'd lost you. Sir, we're very much alive, and we've discovered something crucial. Miller explained their findings about the dark matter drive and the Empire's technological blind spot. The Admiral's expression changed from despair to cautious hope. You're certain about this? Absolutely, sir. The Empire's ships are powerful, but they're not invincible. They're vulnerable to something we've had all along. They just don't know it yet. How long would it take to modify other weapons with this technology? Miller looked at Tom, who answered quickly. With the research data we've gathered, maybe 48 hours for basic modifications. The Thunderchild can protect Earth's crucial facilities while we work on it. The Admiral nodded firmly. Do it. I'll inform the Defense Council that surrender is not an option. And Miller? Yes, sir. Stay invisible. You're our ace in the hole. The Empire thinks they know everything about us. Let's keep them thinking that way. As the transmission ended, Miller turned to his crew. You heard the Admiral. We're not just running tests anymore. We're Earth's secret weapon. And it's time to put our theories into practice. The Empire's joke was about to backfire, and the Thunderchild would lead the way. Imperial scout ship approaching Sector 7. Tom reported from his sensor station. The Thunderchild had been shadowing Imperial patrol ships for 12 hours, gathering data on their movements and behaviors. Captain Miller watched the Imperial scout ship through the main view screen. It was smaller than their capital ships, but still twice the size of the Thunderchild. Its sleek hull gleamed with a silvery blue sheen as it moved confidently through space. "They're starting their sweep of Jupiter's moons," Mark said, "just like the previous patrol." Miller nodded. They had observed 3 patrol cycles now. The Empire was thorough but predictable. Each scout followed the same route, checking for any Earth vessels trying to hide among the outer planets. "Sir," Lisa called out urgently, "they found one of our mining outposts on Europa. There are still civilians there." The scout ship's weapons were powering up. They had destroyed every Earth facility they'd discovered so far, regardless of whether it was military or civilian. Miller's jaw tightened. "Battle stations. Tom, do we have enough data on their shield frequencies?" "Yes, sir. The dark matter cannon is ready. We've never fired it in actual combat, but all simulations show their shields should be useless against it. Helm, bring us in close. Lisa, send emergency evacuation orders to the Europa outpost." Miller stood from his chair, his voice firm. "It's time to show the Empire that Earth isn't as helpless as they think." The Thunderchild moved silently through space, completely invisible to Imperial sensors. They positioned themselves behind the scout ship, which was now broadcasting demands for the mining outpost's surrender. "Dark matter cannon charged to full power," Tom reported. "Target locked." Miller took a deep breath. This would be humanity's first offensive action against the Empire. There would be no going back. Fire. A beam of invisible energy shot from the Thunderchild's main weapon. There was no bright flash, no dramatic light show, just a sudden ripple in space as the dark matter stream hit the Imperial ship's shields. The effect was immediate and devastating. The dark matter passed through the shields as if they didn't exist, cutting a clean line through the scout ship's engine section. Secondary explosions blossomed along its hull as power systems overloaded. "Direct hit," Tom shouted. Their shields didn't stop anything. The Imperial ship's artificial gravity failed, causing it to begin spinning slowly. Emergency lights flashed along its hull as the crew tried desperately to understand what had hit them. "They're sending out a distress signal," Lisa reported. "The translator is. They're saying they were hit by an unknown weapon. They don't understand what happened." Miller allowed himself a small smile. "Send a message to the mining outpost. Tell them to stay in their bunkers until we confirm the area is clear." The scout ship's distress call was already drawing attention. 2 more Imperial vessels were changing course to investigate. "Sir, should we engage the other ships?" Mark asked. Miller shook his head. "No, we've proven what we needed to prove. The dark matter weapons work. Send all combat data to Earth Command immediately. They need to know exactly how effective this is so they can modify our other weapons." The Thunderchild retreated to a safe distance, still invisible, and watched as Imperial rescue ships arrived. The crew could see the confusion and panic in the Empire's response. Their invincible ships weren't so invincible after all. "Message from Admiral Rogers," Lisa announced. "Earth's weapons labs are working at full speed to replicate our dark matter technology. They say the first modified missiles will be ready in 18 hours. Miller watched the Imperial ships scramble to secure the area, scanning desperately for their unknown attacker. "Send a reply to the Admiral. Tell him the weapon works perfectly, but the real advantage is psychological. The Empire doesn't know what hit them, how we hit them, or where we'll strike next." The fear of the unknown was about to become Earth's greatest weapon. The Empire's joke had just turned deadly serious. The Imperial command ship, Star Sovereign, hung in space near Mars, its massive hull stretching over 3 kilometers in length. Inside its command center, High Commander Reed was not happy. "What do you mean you can't explain it?" he shouted at his chief engineer. "A scout ship doesn't just get destroyed by nothing." "Sir," the engineer replied nervously, "the weapon signatures don't match anything in our database. The damage pattern is impossible. It's as if something passed straight through our shields." Meanwhile, the Thunderchild watched from a safe distance, completely invisible to Imperial sensors. Captain Miller and his crew had been observing the Empire's response to their attack for the past 6 hours. They've tripled their patrol ships, Tom reported from his sensor station. But they're keeping them close together now. They're scared. Miller nodded. Lisa, what are you picking up from their communications? Their command structure is starting to crack, sir, she replied, monitoring Imperial transmissions. Some captains want to pull back to defensive positions. Others want to attack Earth immediately before we can use this mysterious weapon again. The ship's communication system beeped with an incoming message from Earth. Admiral Rogers appeared on screen, looking tired but determined. Captain Miller, status report, the Admiral ordered. The Empire is rattled, sir, Miller responded. They've never faced an enemy they couldn't detect. Their entire battle doctrine is falling apart. Good, because we're about to make their day much worse. The Admiral's face showed a hint of satisfaction. The weapons labs have done it. We've successfully modified 20 missiles with dark matter warheads. 6 of our remaining ships have been equipped with basic dark matter shielding. Not as advanced as the Thunderchild, but enough to give them some stealth capability. Miller leaned forward. What are our orders, sir? We're launching Operation Shadow Strike in 10 hours. Your ship will lead the attack. The Empire thinks they're dealing with one mysterious vessel. Let's show them what Earth's full response looks like. The plan was simple but daring. While the Thunderchild engaged the Empire's main fleet, Earth's newly modified ships would strike at their supply lines and communication relays. The dark matter missiles would target their largest vessels, creating chaos and confusion. One more thing, Captain, the Admiral added. We've intercepted communications from their homeworld. They're sending reinforcements. We need to do as much damage as possible before they arrive. After the transmission ended, Miller addressed his crew. This is what we've been waiting for. Earth finally has a fighting chance, and we're going to make it count. Sir, Mark called out suddenly, the Empire is moving. Their main fleet is breaking orbit around Mars. All eyes turned to the view screen. Hundreds of Imperial ships were forming into attack formation, their engines glowing bright against the darkness of space. They're heading for Earth, Tom confirmed. Looks like the aggressive captains won their argument. Miller smiled grimly. They think they can intimidate us with a show of force. They still don't understand what they're dealing with. He turned to his crew. Battle stations. Lisa, signal Earth Command. Tell them the Empire took the bait. They're coming to us. The Thunderchild's dark matter drive hummed to life as they prepared for battle. Behind them, Earth's modified ships were moving into position, hidden from Imperial sensors. The missiles were ready, their dark matter warheads waiting to be unleashed. They thought our defenses were a joke, Miller said quietly. Time to show them the punchline. The next few hours would change the course of the war. The Empire was about to learn that underestimating Earth was the biggest mistake they had ever made. The Empire's fleet filled the view screen of the Thunderchild, hundreds of warships moving in perfect formation toward Earth. Captain Miller watched calmly as the distance between them shortened. All Earth ships report ready, Lisa announced from her station. Dark matter missiles are armed and tracking. Miller nodded. Remember your training. We've practiced this. The Empire doesn't know about our modified ships yet. Let's keep that surprise as long as we can. The Thunderchild moved silently through space, completely invisible to Imperial sensors. 6 other Earth ships, now equipped with basic dark matter shielding, spread out behind the Imperial fleet's flanks, also hidden from detection. Enemy fleet entering missile range in 3 minutes, Tom reported. High Commander Reed's voice boomed across all frequencies. People of Earth, you have dared to strike at the Empire. Now witness the price of defiance. Your planet will burn for this insult. Miller smiled slightly. They still think they're invincible. Lisa, signal all ships. Execute Operation Shadow Strike. The battle began in complete silence. 20 dark matter missiles launched from Earth's defense platforms, invisible to Imperial sensors. The Empire's fleet continued their advance, unaware of the approaching threat. Impact in 5 seconds, Tom counted down. 4, 3, 2, 1. The missiles struck. 5 of the Empire's largest ships erupted in flames as dark matter warheads bypassed their shields completely. Secondary explosions chained through their formation as debris scattered through space. What? Reed's voice cracked with shock. Impossible. Where did those shots come from? Before the Empire could recover, the Thunderchild struck. Their dark matter cannon carved through 3 more warships, cutting them in half as if their shields didn't exist. Imperial fleet is breaking formation, Mark reported excitedly. They're splitting up to search for attackers. This was exactly what Earth had planned for. As the Imperial ships scattered, Earth's hidden vessels sprang their trap. 6 ships decloaked simultaneously, their own dark matter weapons blazing. The Empire's orderly formation dissolved into chaos. "Sir," Lisa called out, "intercepted communications show their command structure is collapsing. Some ships are retreating without orders." Miller watched as the mighty Imperial fleet, which had seemed unstoppable just hours ago, fell into disarray. "Launch second missile volley. Target their command ships." More explosions lit up space as dark matter missiles found their marks. The Empire's ships fired back blindly, their advanced weapons hitting nothing but empty space as Earth's vessels shifted positions under their dark matter cloaks. "Imperial fighters launching," Tom warned. "Hundreds of them." "Let them come," Miller ordered. "Their small ships have even weaker shields. Push forward with the attack plan." The Thunderchild dove into the heart of the Imperial formation. Their dark matter cannon fired continuously now, each shot finding its target. Around them, Earth's other ships pressed their advantage, striking from multiple directions. High Commander Reed's voice came again, but this time it shook with rage and fear. "Fall back. All ships fall back. Regroup at Mars orbit." "Sir," Lisa's voice was triumphant. "The Imperial fleet is retreating. They're breaking off the attack." The view screen showed the Empire's once mighty armada turning away from Earth, their formation shattered. Damaged ships limped away while others fled at full speed, leaving their wounded behind. "Casualty report?" Miller asked. "We lost 2 of our modified ships," Mark replied solemnly. "But the Empire, they've lost at least 30 capital ships and dozens of smaller vessels. Nothing like this has ever happened to them before." Miller stood from his command chair, watching the Imperial retreat. "Send word to Earth Command. The counterattack was successful, but this isn't over. The Empire will be back, and next time they'll be ready for us." The crew knew he was right. They had won their first major battle, but the war was far from over. Still, they had proven something important today. Earth was no longer a joke to the Galactic Empire. They were a serious threat, and the Empire had learned this lesson the hard way. High Commander Reed stood in the wreckage of his command center aboard the Star Sovereign. The mighty ship, pride of the Imperial fleet, now limped through space near Mars with severe battle damage. Holographic displays showed the scattered remains of his once perfect fleet. 32 capital ships lost, his tactical officer reported, voice trembling. 47 support vessels destroyed. Over 200 fighters gone. We still can't detect what hit us." Reed slammed his fist on the command table. 300 years. For 300 years, the Empire has never lost a battle. Now we're running from primitives. Meanwhile, the Thunderchild maintained its invisible vigil, monitoring the Imperial fleet's remnants. Captain Miller and his crew listened to the Empire's communications, watching their mighty force crumble from within. "Sir," Lisa reported, "the Imperial command structure is falling apart. 3 fleet commanders have already fled the system entirely. They're arguing about who's to blame for the defeat." Tom added from his sensor station, "Their remaining ships are forming defensive clusters. They're so scared of our attacks they won't even spread out to maintain proper coverage." Miller nodded. The mighty empire that had threatened to burn Earth was now huddling in fear of invisible attackers. What about their reinforcements? Still 8 days away, Mark answered. But there's something else. The Empire's home government is demanding answers. They don't believe their fleet could be defeated by primitive Earth weapons. On the Star Sovereign, Reed faced a rebellion from his own officers. His command room was filled with angry voices. "We should withdraw completely," shouted one captain through a holographic display. "These humans have weapons that ignore our shields. We're defenseless." "Coward," another captain yelled. "We can't show weakness. We should throw everything we have at their planet now." "With what ships?" a third voice countered. "Half our fleet is destroyed or running away." Reed watched his authority crumble as the argument continued. The Empire's strict chain of command, maintained through fear and absolute technical superiority, was breaking down. For the first time in centuries, Imperial officers were questioning their orders. The Thunderchild's crew monitored all of this with growing satisfaction. Earth's strategy had worked perfectly. The Empire's overconfidence had been their weakness, and now that weakness was tearing them apart. "Message from Earth Command," Lisa announced. "All remaining Earth ships have been modified with dark matter technology. Our orbital defense platforms are also upgraded. We're ready if they try another attack." Miller studied the tactical display. The Empire's remaining ships were scattered across the solar system, trying to maintain some semblance of control while living in fear of another invisible attack. "Sir," Tom called out suddenly, detecting multiple power spikes from Imperial ships. They're starting to fight each other." The view screen showed flashes of weapons fire between Imperial vessels. The argument had turned violent, with ships loyal to different commanders turning on each other. "Empire Command Channel," Lisa reported. "High Commander Reed is ordering all ships to stand down. No one's listening. Their fleet captains are choosing sides." Miller watched as the mighty Imperial fleet tore itself apart. "Send word to Earth Command. The Empire's greatest weapon was always fear. Now they're the ones who are afraid, and they don't know how to handle it." The Thunderchild's crew watched in amazement as the Empire's remaining ships divided into hostile groups, their formation discipline completely forgotten. Some fled toward the outer system, others clustered near Mars, and a few simply shut down their engines and waited. 300 years of absolute power, Miller said quietly. All it took to break them was showing them they weren't invincible after all. But even as they watched the Empire's crisis unfold, they knew this wasn't the end. Reinforcements were still coming, and next time, the Empire would be fighting for revenge, as well as conquest. The real test was still to come. 8 days after the Empire's first defeat, the Thunderchild sensors detected new energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. The Imperial reinforcements had arrived. 500 fresh warships, Tom reported grimly. "These ones are even bigger than the First Fleet." Captain Miller stood calmly on his bridge, watching the new threat approach. "What's the status of Earth's defenses?" "All ships and stations are equipped with dark matter technology," Mark replied. "Every weapon we have can now pierce their shields." "But, sir, they outnumber us 20 to 1. The new Imperial fleet was led by Grand Admiral Stone, the Empire's most decorated commander. His massive flagship, twice the size of Reed's Star Sovereign, moved with purpose toward Earth. "All ships, battle positions," Miller ordered. "They may have numbers, but we have the element of surprise." They still don't understand how we beat their first fleet. The Imperial ships advanced in a new formation. They had learned from their previous defeat, keeping their ships closer together for protection. What they didn't know was that this would make Earth's attack even more devastating. Grand Admiral Stone's voice boomed across all frequencies. "Attention, Earth forces. Your primitive trickery may have worked once, but the Empire does not forgive rebellion. Surrender now, or we will destroy every human settlement in this system." Miller smiled. "Send the signal to Earth Command. Operation Darkness Falls is ready." The battle began differently this time. Instead of hiding, Earth's ships decloaked all at once. 40 vessels, all equipped with dark matter technology, appeared in a circle around the Imperial fleet. "What is this?" Stone's voice showed the first hint of uncertainty. "All ships, open fire." The Empire's weapons blazed, filling space with energy beams and plasma torpedoes, but Earth's ships simply activated their dark matter shields, letting the attacks pass harmlessly through them. "Now," Miller commanded, "all ships, fire." The Thunderchild led the attack, its dark matter cannon cutting through the heart of the Imperial formation. The other Earth ships followed, their weapons ignoring the Empire's supposedly impenetrable shields. "Impossible," Stone shouted as his ships began exploding around him. "All ships, scatter. Find their weakness." But there was no weakness to find. Earth's orbital platforms joined the attack, launching waves of dark matter missiles. The Empire's tight formation became their downfall, as explosions chained from ship to ship. "They're trying to retreat," Lissa reported excitedly. "Their fleet is breaking up." Miller watched as the mighty Imperial armada began to fall apart. "No escape this time. Signal all ships. Execute containment plan." Earth's fleet moved with practiced precision, herding the Imperial ships into a killing zone. The Thunderchild led the final charge, its dark matter weapons blazing through the enemy's finest vessels. In his flagship, Grand Admiral Stone watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed. "This cannot be happening. We are the Empire. We cannot be defeated by." His transmission cut off as a dark matter missile struck his flagship's bridge. The Empire's greatest warship split in half, secondary explosions tearing it apart. "Imperial fleet is in full retreat," Tom announced. "The survivors are jumping out of the system." The bridge crew of the Thunderchild cheered as they watched the last Imperial ships flee. Of the 500 that had arrived, barely 50 had escaped. Earth's space around was filled with floating debris, the remains of the Empire's greatest fleet. "Send word to Earth Command," Miller ordered. "The solar system is secure. And send a message to any Imperial ships that might be listening. Earth is off limits." Lisa smiled as she sent the transmission. "Do you think they'll come back, sir?" Miller shook his head. "The Empire ruled through fear and technological superiority. We've taken both away from them. They'll never see Earth as a joke again." The Thunderchild turned toward home, its dark matter drive humming quietly. Behind them, the wreckage of 2 Imperial fleets drifted in space, a monument to human ingenuity and a reminder that sometimes the greatest weapon isn't the biggest ship or the strongest shield. It's the power of innovation, and the courage to use it when everyone else thinks you don't stand a chance.